In August of 2024, I survived a 1 in 1,000 year flood. Lucky us. People who live in this house for the next 1,000 years should never have to face that again. But me and my family and many families in our surrounding town, we did. Recently, I shared a decluttering video as well as my no-buy plan for 2026 that related to leaving overconsumption behind. And after reflecting, realized that my decluttering journey actually started back in 2024. So today, I want to talk about 5 overconsumption habits that I was forced to let go of because of a flood that I'm so happy are no longer part of my life. Hi, friends. Welcome in or welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Kay. I'm a wife, a mom to 2, an accountability coach, and a photographer. I started this YouTube channel because after 13 to 15 years of hustle culture, or burning the candle at both ends and running myself into the ground in my girl boss era, I hit burnout. And now this is my place to heal, to document my healing journey from that burnout. I needed a soft season. And if you need a soft place to land where we are kinder with ourselves and gentler with our goals, we're happy to have you here. First, before I get into it, I am sitting on my floor. I am filming once again with my professional camera, which is finally back from repairs. And I'm so excited because not only can I now book photo shoots again, I can film on here and I'm pretty stoked. I appreciate good quality. And yeah, I'm just excited to have it back. But now you may ask, how does a flood force you to leave overconsumption habits behind? What does that even mean? Well, first, let me tell you a little bit about this flood. So they said it was a 1 in 1,000 year flood. It happened so fast. Nobody expected it. Nobody could have predicted it. And we didn't even know it was happening as it was happening. So it started off as a rainy Sunday morning. My kids and I were watching the rain out the window when I noticed that the puddle that usually grows during a rainstorm under our playscape out there was growing exponentially faster than normal. So within 45 minutes of the rain really starting, our river that borders our house had connected through this puddle to the other side. And I told the kids, stay here for a minute. I'm going to go get Daddy. My husband was up in the garage, mouse proofing, because we had had a few mice getting through the walls. And I said, hey, I really think you should come look at the river, and maybe we should move your ladder up on the deck just in case. We went outside, we moved the ladder, and by that point, the river was approaching further into our backyard. It was further than it had ever been. And then we go back inside. We're wondering what's happening. This is new. Is the river going to keep coming? My husband goes downstairs to check if there's water coming in the basement. There's not. And then he comes back upstairs, and not 5 minutes later, the lights flicker. Our shed was ripping off the electricals of our house. We opened the door, and there it went, down the river, smashed a tree down, hit the bridge. Everything in the shed and the shed was gone forever. At that moment, I looked at my husband. I said, I think we need to leave, but first, let's get everything off the deck. But this flood was insane because an hour and a half after it started, after the rain started, we were evacuating our house. A kind angel in a white pickup showed us how to get out of where we were stuck on the main road that had become a river because all the bridges were blown out, showed us a low point so we could get across to the grocery store parking lot where we were then stranded for the entire night until a kind stranger in the apartments took us in so our kids could get some sleep. We had no idea what we would be coming home to. Luckily, we had about a 2-inch clearance before the water that came through the garage and into the breezeway rose to hit the kitchen floor. So our first floor was safe, but everything from that breezeway down, ruined. My husband was sending me pictures. The water had come all the way up to the ceiling of the basement. I saw camera gear sitting in there. Everything was floating around. The chest freezer had risen, dumped everything out, was floating in the water. Everything was wet. And most everything was ruined. So I took my kids to my parents, and then I went back a few days later to the traumatic site of things that I had stockpiled, planned for, saved, bought for future occasions, or Christmas ornaments, my baby scrapbooks. All of that was just spread across our deck in the sun, and I had to sort through it. And in that moment, I became a ruthless declutterer because I had no choice. My mother-in-law, bless her heart, took all of our Christmas ornaments, our baby ornaments, every memento that was in those boxes, brought them home and hand cleaned, repaired, and fixed every ornament that had been affected, dried them all out, washed everything she could, and we lost very few. But aside from that box, I was in such a bad place. It was really hard mentally. My baby scrapbook, as I'm flipping through it, I'm just seeing like my locks of hair, the first cards when I was born in the hospital, from grandparents that are no longer with me, their signatures, and like my grandma on my mom's side loved dolphins, and there was a fuzzy dolphin sticker in the card, and I can't talk about it too much or I might cry. All of that was ruined, was wet, was not salvageable. And I had to go through that. And basically after processing with some tears, I just started dumping stuff in the pile that the men were hauling off to the dumpster. The clothes that I had for the kids up to size like 12, I knew that they could be washed, but the problem with the water is it was dirt, sand, sewage. At one point, our neighbor's propane tank had come into our front yard and was spewing natural gas everywhere. People's belongings, their sewage, everything in their basements, just everything had come down the river, and it was polluted, disgusting water. And I looked at these tubs of clothes and was like, I cannot wash all of these. And by the time I get through all of them, how much mold is already growing because it's like day 3 of them just sitting in water. I had to declutter so much. So that's my story of the flood. And how does that relate to overconsumption? What was I forced to let go of because my house flooded and I had to chuck so many things? Well, if you watch my 500 item declutter, I talk about how most of the stuff that I threw out, a lot of the stuff was from the last few years where I got into a bad overconsumption habit when, we were locked inside during COVID and when I had postpartum depression, when influencers really became a thing and everything being sold to me is the next best thing, or you need this, or you have to be aesthetically pleasing because you have this. All these things I threw out and they were wasted money. But I also realized as I was reflecting on what I threw out just last week, it could have been so much more. But since the flood, I've actually started this journey of leaving overconsumption behind without even really realizing it, because I had to face a lot of hard truths. So the point of this video is I don't want you to have to go through a flood that ruins your personal prized possessions for you to learn some of these things too. So if I can help you, or even just one of these habits resonates, you can stop doing it without having to flood your house. So let's just get into it. I know this is getting long already, but I'm feeling very passionate about this because so many threads are connecting in my life. And I'm excited to see that this seed was planted earlier and that some of these things have been such an integral part of my life, and why so many of the items that I decluttered were older items and not specifically from like this last year and why I think I was able to do that declutter, because I've already worked through some of these hard things. So habit number one that I was forced to let go of because my house flooded was buying just in case items. I realized that I was buying for anxiety, not for current need. I was buying things or keeping things in the basement that my kids might need. I had 3 potty seats in case my kid didn't like one of them. Why? I had clothing, I had organizers, I had things down there that I literally kept just in case, or if someone was giving it away, or I saw a TikToker talking about it because when their kid was 7, they loved this item. My kids at that moment were 3 and 1.5. And why was I buying things just in case? Because I had the space in the basement to keep it, of course. But now that I'm terrified to store anything in the basement, I don't buy just in case items anymore. I don't go collect them on Facebook Marketplace. I don't say yes when other people are purging their houses or when my mom is like, do you want this just in case you need it later? I just say no, because that's letting anxiety take over my need to be prepared for the future instead of trusting that future K will be able to handle it and be able to get what she needs. The second overconsumption habit that I let go of was buying things as stress relief. Because when your basement floods, it's actually more stressful to have to go through everything you bought and one by one determine if it was worth it or not, to clean it and save it and repair it, or if it's just going to be tossed in the dumpster. I bought boredom purchases that I thought were great that I then ended up storing in the basement. Doom scrolling at night thinking, let me get this cool organizer, this cool thing for the kitchen that then I didn't end up using for very long, or it kind of half worked and didn't really work well for me because it wasn't something I researched. It wasn't something I really looked into before getting. So I stored it in the basement, and guess what? It got ruined and I had to decide to put it in the dump. Buying the item never actually made me feel better. It just delayed whatever I was feeling, like stress or boredom, or feeling like I needed to keep up with what other people were buying. And then in the end, when it all had to go away, it added more stress to my life. So now when I purchase something, I try to decide if it's something that I will use, if I will keep it for a long time as its intended purpose, or if it's something that's just going to end up being stored in my basement, potentially for a flood to destroy. Hopefully not, because it was a 1 in 1,000 year flood, but for something to happen to it where then I just have to go dump it in the trash. The third overconsumption habit was prepping for the future. I no longer stockpile like I used to. I had backup Lysol wipes. I had all the light bulbs and screws and batteries. I had $600 of meat in the chest freezer. We still do use meat, but I don't keep quite as much of a stockpile. I had the big BJ's Costco paper towels and toilet papers, and anything I could buy in bulk, I did. So I was like, oh, I have room to store 12 chicken broths. Oh, I have room for 24 paper towels. But then when the flood happened, I lost it all. I was planning for every possible scenario where we might run out of something and I might need it. I was trying to take advantage of sales, of the surplus, of having a BJ's membership, trying to make that worth it. I had so many 5-pound bags of broccoli in that freezer. I can just envision right now what was down there that got absolutely destroyed, and how much of it was wasted money, because if I hadn't stockpiled or bought in bulk, that money would have been used for future groceries when we needed them. Same thing with all of those kids' clothes. My sister handed them down. I was excited to not have to go buy clothes again. And now I think about it, and I'm actually having so much fun going out with my daughter in her current size clothing and letting her pick out stuff. Little did we know that when my son was 2.5, he would find a love for excavators that knows no bounds. He went through his pajama drawer the other day. Anything in there that was not an excavator or truck or red, he booted it and is going to his cousin because he decided that is all he will wear. What if I had all those clothes? All of them would have been booted anyways because he won't wear them. It's more fun and better for them and their current interests to buy their size up clothing when they're ready for it. I thought I was stockpiling to help myself, but instead it made more work, very heavy work, because wet clothing is very heavy, to just have to discard it. And I believe that once again, in my soft season, I am trusting that I will figure things out when they come. I will remember to write down that we need paper towels when we go through the pack of 4. When we run out or are nearing the end of trash bags, I will just go get more. There's no need to have this huge warehouse in my home anymore, because literally BJ's is called a warehouse. That's my warehouse. I can just go there when I need something. The fourth overconsumption habit that I'm leaving behind and have left behind is consuming content that makes me feel behind. Because it can be easy, even after I went through all that trauma and I went through all that work of getting rid of everything because it was destroyed and having to sort through absolutely ruined things from the breezeway even, which is where I had things that I use, like shoes and coats and scarves and bags. I can still get stuck feeling like I'm behind. I can still watch content and want to get new stuff. So I had to cut that off. I had to stop consuming that content, because not only were we out a lot of money in repairs and we were in no place to buy anything else, I also, for about 6 months, didn't have a basement to put anything. The breezeway we completed right in time for Thanksgiving. So we were out of our house in August. We were displaced for 8 weeks before we could move home. And then November, right before Thanksgiving, is when the breezeway finally had trim put in. And it was just like an empty slate. I didn't have anywhere to put in stuff. I couldn't refill these spaces. I had to change something, and that came to changing what I was consuming online. Just the people who are constantly putting ads out there, the influencers who are telling you need something, even some of the moms that had like the perfect aesthetic, the beautiful toys, the perfect homeschool corner. I had to let that go. Really, all these things were just noise disguised as inspiration. And by letting them go, I'm kind of getting to figure out what it is I like in those spaces and getting to enjoy the fact that we're creating this new breezeway from scratch where I'm in charge of what goes in there, and it's not being dictated by content, but it's being dictated by what I like and what our family needs. And the final overconsumption habit that I had to let go of, and I think the biggest and most important one, that I let go of equating my preparedness with my worth. I felt good thinking that I had things down there I could give to other people. I felt good thinking I had the kids' clothes prepared. I felt good thinking that everything was optimized. They were in beautiful storage containers, perfectly labeled. I believed that having better organization, having a full basement meant I was a better mom because I had 3 bins of arts and crafts, or a better business owner because I kept all of this gear that I might need for a job. Literally like $10,000 worth of lighting and camera equipment gone. And guess what? I'm still a good photographer and I'm still a good business owner. My worth is not tied to those items I got rid of. Obviously, I had to let go of sentimental items. And even there, me having all of those things was great. I like to look back at those things. I still miss them sometimes. But once again, they're not tied to my worth. Being prepared or having items does not equate to worth. I literally was thinking of how my mom always brought us up on this idea of like being a good Girl Scout and always being prepared. And I think that's kind of where it came from. But the other day I was thinking about how I've always been that person to carry extra pads and tampons in my purse, in the diaper bag, in any bag I have. And I think the only time I have ever been asked if I have one was a girl in college. I have not been in college since 2012. It is now 2026, so 14 years of carrying these extra supplies in case someone else needs it, like a Girl Scout. Carrying extra Tylenol, carrying extra pads, carrying extra diapers more than what my kid needs in case there's another mom who needs a diaper. All of these things are good, but they don't make me less than to let go of that idea that I have to be prepared to be good. I'm learning that being present with what I have and where I am and the people I'm with is more important than any item. Whether it was an item in the basement, the breezeway, or the garage that I had to throw out, or anything that I decluttered last week, being present is more important than being prepared, because I have so much less mental clutter shouting at me. I don't have a full basement of things, but I know everything I have down there has a meaning and it has a worth and it is useful in this moment and it has nothing to do with me. So those are my 5 overconsumption habits that I left behind, was forced to let go of when my house flooded, that I have been building the muscle for over the last year. So even though I just decluttered 500 items, I think I did it so well because I've not been in an overconsumption loop. And I hope that me having to learn these habits and how to let go of them the hard way can help you let go of them the easier way by just listening and learning and trying it out in your own life. Letting go of these habits is part of me choosing a softer, quieter life. It's letting me breathe. It's letting me not feel so bad about everything that had to go to the dumpster after that flood. I had to let go of a lot. I lost a lot. We had to rebuild a lot. Everything that was in the shed, the mowers, the weed whackers, all my gardening stuff, all of the kids' summer toys, they all went down the river. Who knows where they ended up? But guess what? I still had a great summer this past year with my kids from what was donated to us after the flood and what's already in our house and in our backyard. We took bath toys, brought those out to the little turtle pool. We played in the sand that was still left over in our yard from the flood, and we dug in that instead of having a sandbox. And it was great, and it was peaceful, and it didn't come with a ton of items that we needed to go get to have the most perfect backyard. So obviously I'm getting too long-winded because right at the end, my camera just stopped recording. But anyways, if you were thinking about how to leave overconsumption behind and you're still thinking about it, you're not alone. I believe these are habits that we have to keep reminding ourselves of so that we can overcome them. If any of them resonated with you, feel free to drop a comment down below and stick around because I plan to continue to post, continue to share about my journey in hopes that not only am I being gentler and kinder with myself, but maybe it can help you also. Thanks for being here today, and I'll see you in the next one.